Look at that! It's right back! That's nice. Well, you can step on it and then put some slide.
Nowadays, it seems like people are catching a striped bass and they catch a 35-inch striped bass and they're like, oh my goodness, that's a pig.
Right.
That's because the sizes have gone down.
Right.
There's a lot of people keeping the bigger fish.
Right.
So, and a lot of people, like I said, they're new to fishing. They don't know how slow these striped bass grow. I've had guys come to me and say, you know, I was told a 35-inch striped bass was 2 years old. And I'm like, it's quite the opposite. It's actually 8 years old. These fish grow to the max of 20 years old and to about 80 pounds.
Wow.
Now imagine catching an 80-pound striped bass in the surf. You would probably pass out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but the potential is there. In the 80s, this whole area right here was extremely popular for catching big striped bass. There's a lot of local fishermen here who are older will tell you it was unbelievable fishing. They would catch 40, 45 pounders on the regular multiple times. You got the Quanang brothers. They're pretty famous out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. They've written books about striped bass fishing. If you go on Amazon, they have a book that's called San Francisco Striped Bass. It's a really good book. It'll give you a real indication of how the fishery was and how it could be. You know, you got the guys nowadays, they hold a striped bass and they're almost long arming it to make it look bigger. That's the trend now, to hold it up to make it look bigger. Right. Back then, they didn't need to do that.
Right.
They would hold it up like this.
Right.
The tail would be on the floor.
Wait, I do that. I do that.
So, you know, my main point here is to educate you on how slow these bass grow and how important it is maybe to consider to catch and release a bigger striped bass because it's an older fish.
Right.
It's not, like I said, it takes them a long time to get that big, and they're the spawning fish. Fishing Game did a research recently, this last year. They did 4 days of trapping at 4 different locations to see what was the population count and what was the sex of the striped bass. Out of 5,400 fish they caught, 5,000 were male.
Wow.
388 were female. That's the indication as far as how many big fish we have. The males max out at 34 inches. So if you catch a fish between 18 to 34, usually chances are it's a male.
Right.
If you catch a fish that's 35 inches and bigger, it's a female. But keep that in mind, there's only very few of them. So that's why it's important. I know it's gonna be it's hard for people, especially some new anglers who've never caught a striped bass, so they caught 1 or 2 and it's been a small guy, right? Yeah. And you catch a big striped bass and you're just overwhelmed. You're just like, oh my goodness, what do I do? You're overwhelmed with excitement. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. Take your picture. If it's in you, not for everybody, but if it's in you, appreciate that moment, all that hard work, all those skunks. And maybe give that opportunity to somebody else to experience that same experience. Because that's what these fish give to us, is that experience. And the bigger they are, the bigger the experience is.
Right.
Right? Because you can't compare catching a big fish to catching a bunch of small fish. It's just not the same. Yeah. Right? So, if you do catch a big fish, get the picture, video, whatever you want to do, and then try to properly release it. Now, catch and release is not just throwing it into the water. Right. Sometimes, you have a long battle fish, especially if you're underarmed. A lot of people like to use, you know, perch rods and little lightweight rods. I don't recommend that if you're gonna be serious about catching striped bass, because if you do catch a fish a lifetime, you end up losing it, or it's gonna be a long battle. And by the time you bring it in, it's almost dead. I've had fishermen try to revive fish for over 30 minutes in the water, trying to keep it going till it finally kicks out, because it has to kick out on its own or bite on your thumb if you're holding it. If it doesn't do any of that, it's almost lifeless. The way you have to think of it is when you're fighting a fish, it's running a marathon. Okay? By the time it comes in, it's fully exhausted. So imagine running a marathon, you're fully exhausted, and you're brought out of the water. Now it can't breathe because it doesn't breathe air. So it's somebody's covering your mouth and you're sweating and you're trying to get air. So the timing out of the water is also important. Try not to keep them too long out of water because you're basically suffocating them because they don't breathe air. Where's my guy? Okay. Oh, did you get the paperwork? Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna hand out to you guys. If you guys just want to pass it along, it's just quick information. How I measure my success rate is, and to get an idea how big the fish is, this is a very detailed chart. If you want to just get one and pass it on, it'll tell you here basically on the size of the fish. If you measure it by inches, it'll tell you how old it is and the capacity. You have a minimum, average, and maximum weight size. So if it's super skinny, that's your minimum. If it's just average,
yeah,
that's your average size. If it's got a big belly, that's gonna be your max capacity. This chart here will tell you if you catch an 18-inch fish, it's 3 years old. That's what Fish and Game decided to do. They said a 3-year-old fish is legal. We can't really rely on Fish and Game to make the proper rules. I think it's more important as anglers, we inform ourselves and we make that educated decision as far as what we think is right. A mature female striped bass, which would be 28 inches, which is 6 years old, could reach the maximum of 12 pounds. So she's got a base, its average can be about 11 to 10 pounds. Okay? So I like to, when I catch a fish, is get the measurement of the fish, get my picture. If the opportunity is there, sometimes if I feel the fight's too long, I'll skip the picture and I'll just do my thing when I have to release it.
I got a couple buddies,
So, but they reach their maturity at 6 years old, 28 inches. From there, you would think that, well, they're gonna spawn every year. They don't, unfortunately. A female striped bass spawns every 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
That's why they're even more important. There's only very few of them and they don't spawn every year. That's why our numbers have gone down. It's not just because of the fishermen. Also part of it is our aqueduct system. Anybody familiar with our aqueducts?
Yeah.
California, all the water gets pumped down south.
Yeah.
What happens is that channel opens up and a lot of our fish get pumped into Southern California waters, into the reservoirs there. Once they are in there, they're not coming back. That force of water is so strong they can't swim against it.
Right.
So once they're in that system, they're done as far as population for us. So in Southern California, I have friends that fish those reservoirs. They catch salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, striped bass in Southern California. That's because of the aqueduct system punching so much water through there, and it takes the fish with them. So going back to my point, they start at 6 years old, the female striped bass, to start their spawn weight, and they spawn every 4 to 5 years. So let's say at 28 inches they spawn, another 4 or 5 years, that would mean at 37 inches, they would spawn again. You add another 4 or 5 years, from 37, you're looking at 46 inches. So that's why, in my opinion, it's very important if you do catch a striped bass, enjoy the moment, but if it's a bigger one, consider returning it. Like I said, don't just throw it back. In the surf, it's a little bit difficult. Your safety is more important. The last thing I want to do is somebody trying to catch release and they drown.
Right. Right.
Your safety is number one. Number two, try to do the proper way. Now, a lot of people think that this going back and forth is a good way to revive a fish. It's not. Its system, the way fish is built the water to go forward from the inside their mouth out the gills. It's not built for the water to come from the backside the gills and out the mouth. So actually, when you're going forward, you're doing good. When you're coming back this way, you're suffocating it.
Right.
Oh. A lot of people think that I'm trying to feed it water back and forth, right? The best way would be to keep it forward, do a figure eight, or just keep it forward. Let the water just come in through. Okay. If you have any further questions, like I said, guys, just please, I know everybody's excited about catching these bigger fish, but we need to do something to get this fishery up. It's not going to happen, like I said, with Fish and Game making the regulations.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I want bigger fish to be around. I want everybody to enjoy them. Last year, I caught over 150 striped bass over 28 inches. If I were to keep all those, that would be less for you guys. Honestly, that's just me. I know a handful of great fishermen that are even better than me. They do catch and release, but imagine if they kept all those.
Right.
Okay, so it's important that we learn about our own fishery, we learn about the species we're catching, and try to be a little bit sustainable. You know, I'm doing an incentive right now with other lure makers that if you catch a 32-inch striped bass or bigger, and you get a video of you measuring it and releasing it, I will make you one of my custom lures. Right. I make custom topwater lures for striped bass. They caught many big fish. If you go to my Instagram page, you will see the variety of fish that they've caught. And he got one. That video you guys saw on YouTube, that was perfect. He got a nice fish, enjoyed it, he got it back in the water. I said, you know what, Matt, I'm gonna make you a lure of your choice. Like I said, it's more important to me that we educate ourselves on the striped bass. Let's try to improve the fishery as a whole. Yep. You know, yep. I want to see you guys catch these big fish, not these little dinks, and try to long arm and make them look big. But it's not going to get there if we don't release them, because you have to give them the opportunity to grow. Like you said, the max size here, 55 inches, 80 pounds. That's a 20-year-old fish.
Right.
That's a pig. Anything, in my opinion, from 45 inches and above is considered a pig. We're here to learn. We're here to make each other better. That's why Jun started this More Than Fishing. Because he hated coming to these beaches and not knowing anything. And how are these guys catching these fish? Right, Jun?
Yes.
He's like, nobody wanted to tell him. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys to learn about striped bass, learn about them. Let's try to keep them around. There's a lot of working against them.